All right. I think we are live and ready to go. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon from Chicago. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. We're thrilled to be with you today to share a little bit more about Northwestern. My name is Valerie Smith. I use she, her pronouns. I am a Senior Assistant Director of Admission in the Office of Admission, and I am a graduate of Northwestern School of Education and Social Policy, where I received my master's degree. So I can speak about all sorts of things, admission, a little bit about student life, life in Evanston and Chicago, but we have a true undergraduate student life expert in our midst. So I'm going to let my co-presenter, Sophia, come off mute here and say hello to you as well.
Thanks, Valerie. Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia. I'm a current fourth year, also part of the School of Education and Social Policy, and I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I'm studying social policy and then also psychology.
I'm biased, but I think it's pretty special that you get two CESB alums and champions here in this space today, but all of our undergraduate schools are wonderful. And so we're going to take you through to the best of our ability in just about 30 to 35 minutes here, an overview of all the things that we think makes Northwestern such a special place to be. And as we think about the place where we are and the campus we occupy, we have to start by talking about where we are located. So if you are brand new to learning about Northwestern, this is the best place to start. We call the city of Evanston, Illinois home. It is just north of the city of Chicago, about 3 miles north of the city limits and about 10 miles north of downtown in the business district in the city. So students are drawn to Northwestern because they get the best of both worlds. You get access to a world-class city with all sorts of amenities and activities and fun to take advantage of. And you get a very traditional campus in a great college town that you can really make a home over the course of 4 years here. So Evanston and Chicago are closely related, but each is going to give you a very distinct and different experience. And it's a great place to be if you are drawn to that city life, but maybe don't want to live in the heart of a city year round as you're pursuing your bachelor's degree. So that's, I think, the beauty. I actually think our campus is beautiful, but in a metaphorical sense, that's the beauty of where we're located. We have this very vibrant residential campus where students are living for at least 2 years, and in many cases beyond that. You're taking your classes in a very centralized, walkable academic quad space. And you have this access via easy public transit to get into the city and make friends with our 9.5 million neighbors to the south. So as we go through our presentation today, you'll hear a little bit more about why our location is such a benefit to our students and how you'll be able to take advantage of the city of Chicago and make your home in the city of Evanston. But hopefully that's a helpful starting point to at least frame a conversation about our students. The location of Northwestern is great. The students are the heart and soul of everything that we do. And I think no matter where you land for your college career, the people around you are really going to comprise so much of that experience, because you're not just sitting next to them in class or living down the hall from them in a residence hall. You are learning from them. You are engaging in their life experiences. You are thinking about the ways that those different life experiences impact what you're talking about in class and what activities you're pursuing. And so at Northwestern, your peers are really your instructors and your teachers just as much as your faculty are in a formal classroom setting. And so it's for that reason that we care so deeply about making sure that we are bringing together a really vibrant and diverse community of undergraduate students every year. So we have about 8,000 undergraduate students on our campus at Evanston, meaning we welcome about 2,000 new students every year. And they're diverse in every sense of the word. So certainly in the way that they identify racially and ethnically, but also in where they come from. You can see on the screen here, they represent all 50 states and more than 95 countries. They are diverse from a socioeconomic perspective. More than 20% of our students are eligible for federal Pell Grants. We have first-generation students on campus, international students, students who identify with the LGBTQ+ community. There is a home and a space for everyone here. And that's, to me, I think the most beautiful thing about Northwestern is that students come from all over the world. They bring with them these massively different experiences and perspectives and belief systems, but it's a very tightly knit and celebratory community once they get here, and that's a very neat thing to witness. So keep that in mind as we go forward. Everything we talk about when it comes to Northwestern and the academic experience, you should understand from the lens that you're going to be doing it in small classes. You're going to be doing it in an environment where you have a lot of access to your faculty members, where that community piece is really central to everything that we're doing. It's hard to sort of fade into the background here and just to sit in the back of the class and take it all in. It's really a place where you're going to engage in meaningful ways with the people around you. And so it's from that perspective that we'll start to talk about the academic experience, at least to kick us off here. And I know it might seem odd to do that with a conversation about our academic calendar, the quarter system. Kind of seems like, why are we talking about a calendar? That's, so specific. But the quarter system is really central to everything that we do here. And it's what gives our students an abundant amount of flexibility in their academic journeys. So let me take a step back and explain to you a little bit about our philosophy when it comes to the undergraduate academic experience. You may know about Northwestern already. You may have done some research. And so you've probably heard that we are a Tier 1 research university. That's very true. It's central to our mission that everyone on this campus is engaged or has the ability to engage in research, in innovation work. They can contribute to their academic department or field of study or knowledge in some significant way. So Northwestern as a university will always have that research piece at the center of what we do. From an undergraduate perspective, though, it's also important to know that we are just as much a liberal arts college. And so what I mean by that is that while you can absolutely come here and specialize through those research opportunities, through your major in an area that's of interest to you, you also have equal opportunity to explore a really wide range of academic subjects and disciplines. You can make connections between different majors and departments. You can explore a wide range of majors before you land on a firm academic plan here. And so it's that interdisciplinary culture where you're making connections that's really the hallmark of the experience. And so back to the quarter system, this calendar is what makes that possible. So instead of offering 2 academic semesters each year, one in the fall and one in the spring, Northwestern's calendar year is split up into 4 quarters: summer, fall, winter, and spring. Our academic year is very similar to any other college. You're going to take classes in the fall, winter, and spring quarters. You will have the summer to really do with whatever you want, an internship, a job, a study abroad experience, heading home to see family, whatever it may be. And then you're a full-time student, of course, in the fall, winter, and spring quarters. Typically, you're taking 4 courses in each of those 3 academic terms for a total of 12 per year. If we operated on a semester calendar, our students would typically be taking 8, maybe 10 classes in an academic year. So bottom line, we're taking more classes here. And before you sign off, because that sounds like a terrible idea, let us convince you why it's actually a really good thing for Northwestern. The students who do well here are drawn to the quarter system because it gives them the opportunity to move through a wider range of classes, to add a new and exciting major or concentration or certificate program on top of that foundational academic work that they're doing. And it also, as we'll talk about later, gives you the flexibility to pursue things like internships and research opportunities and the like. So that flexibility that is provided via the quarter system carries over as we start to think about what the actual academic plan is for each of you. And no 2 students at Northwestern really have the same plan. That's the beauty of that flexibility. You'll see our 6 undergraduate schools on the screen here now. So in the center is our largest school, the College of Arts and Sciences. That's going to include everything from chemistry to English and creative writing. It is a traditional school of the arts and sciences. Every Northwestern student will take a class in Weinberg at some point during their journey here. And then we have 5 schools that have a more nuanced or specialized focus. And you can see those that surround the College of Arts and Sciences on the screen here. Education and social policy, journalism, media and integrated marketing communications, engineering, communication, and music. Every student will have a home base in at least one of these 6 schools. And while they are distinct entities, and there is a unique community to be found in each, you're not boxed in. You are not limited to just experiencing life in one of those schools. Students bounce between them. They pursue majors in more than one school. They pursue elective classes in more than one school. And so while this slide does show them as distinct entities, I don't know that it fully captures the degree to which our students move around them. And so with that in mind, I'm going to pass things over to Sophia now, who can share a little bit more about what this actually looks like in practice.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm actually an example of this. I personally, my home base is in the School of Education and Social Policy, but my second major of psychology is actually in the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. So you can major in two things that might be related, might not be related across schools. That's really exciting. I have friends who have taken a class in every single one of the 6 schools. That's also really great. There's just a lot of flexibility, like Valerie was talking about, to do things in multiple areas, whether that's within one school or across multiple. Yeah, so as we were talking about, there's a lot of room for interdisciplinary work at Northwestern. And one of the great parts about that is that there are so many different options, whether that's majors, minors, certificate programs. We have more than 150. And I believe the stat is over 70% of students are studying multiple things. So that means that it's not just a couple of us, a lot of us are really interested in those multiple areas and really making the most of those over 150 different options. As you can see on the slide, there's also over 4,000 different classes, which means you have so much. There's so much offered here to choose between, and a lot of those will be based in your major, and some of those might just be interesting things that have nothing to do with your major, but you find really cool. For example, I took a painting class last quarter. I'm not studying painting. I don't really know how to paint, but the option is there because of this interdisciplinary way of studying. And another thing to note is that most of our classes are going to be pretty small. So while you might think at a university with over 8,000 undergrads, that's a lot of people here, but actually over 75% of our classes have fewer than 20 students. So you're really getting those one-on-one interactions with professors, which really helps to deepen your learning, make those connections. And in addition to that, it can also help you get involved outside of the classroom, whether that's in something like research or innovation, which we will talk about in a second. All right, so one of those things is going to be experiential learning, and that is any type of learning that is taking place outside of the classroom, and that can be a ton of different things. So I mentioned research, which is a really popular way to be involved outside of the classroom. What's really exciting about Northwestern is that we offer $3.5 million in money dedicated solely for undergraduates to get involved in research, which means if you want to be involved in research, whether it's your first quarter here or you're a senior, there are resources here to help you do that. And one of the great ways to do that is through making those connections with professors in your classes, but you can also do it on your own. If you have an idea for something you want to research yourself, you can propose it and you can get money to do it. Super exciting. I have friends who have done research abroad, actually, which is another popular way of doing research. In addition to more like research-based things abroad, we also have Fulbright studies, we have study abroad programs too. So there's over 150 study abroad programs. I like to say that wherever in the world you want to go and whatever it is you want to study, you can find a study abroad program that fits with you, with your needs. So Northwestern offers a lot of programs that are Northwestern specific, but we also have a lot of affiliated programs. So the options for study abroad are basically endless. Some of those are going to be traditional study abroad programs where you go to university classes. Some might be a research project, and then others might be community-based. Some you might do an internship. There's really a lot of different ways that that study abroad program can look, and you can also do it in whatever major you are. So I personally have a friend who's an engineer, and she went abroad and did community service in Costa Rica and absolutely loved it. So it's a great opportunity to get that kind of extra learning outside of the classroom. And then innovation. So Northwestern is a huge hub for innovation. We have over 100 courses that are based in innovation. We have some certificates that you can take that are innovation related, but you can also just register for the courses if innovation is something you're interested in. And innovation can be in STEM, it can be in literature, it can be in history, it can be in policy. It really spans across all fields at Northwestern. And one of the best my personal favorite parts of innovation at Northwestern is the garage. And it's basically this hub for student-run startups. And you can go to the garage with any idea you have, no matter how out of the box it is, propose it and get help getting it off the ground. You can also go there with a skill and sign up to be on someone else's team. So if maybe you want to be involved in innovation, but you don't quite have that idea yet, you can sign up and get paired with someone who does have that idea and work on their project. There have been over 350 companies that have started there. One I like to talk about is Brew Bike. It's basically this, well, it started off as a little bike that rode around campus giving out cold brew to students. Now they actually have a physical store, but it started at the garage and is now expanded past Northwestern to other university campuses. So if innovation is something you're interested in, the garage offers a ton of resources for you. We are ranked number 14 and that in the university for patents granted. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of professors that are involved in innovation as well, and they're happy to have students help them out with their work, whether that's research or more innovation related things. Yeah, and lastly, so obviously when you're at Northwestern, you are really focused on your academics, but you also want to prepare for life after Northwestern. As a graduating senior, that's definitely something I've been thinking about. And Northwestern does a really awesome job preparing you for your career after Northwestern, whatever that's going to look like. So one of the ways we do that is through our Northwestern Career Advancement, which is this huge office that has a bunch of different resources. So the advising program is one of my favorite parts. You have an individual advisor who is given to you based upon what you're studying. So I have one that's specific to CESP. She helps me with anything from editing my resume, preparing for an interview, reaching out to places, finding opportunities, and that can be for full-time jobs after graduation, or it can be for internships while you're an undergrad. So as it says on the slide, 2/3 of undergrads have had one or more internships. A lot of students will choose to do those over the summer, but students can also do those for credit. So Chicago Field Studies is a really cool program. I've done it before. It allows you to take a quarter while you do an internship in Chicago while taking a class alongside it, and you get credits for it, which is really exciting. So those internships are really like built into the curriculum if that's something you're interested in. And most people will graduate with an offer, and that's because people are really excited about hiring Northwestern students. One of the ways that happens is through our career fairs. So those are hosted a couple times throughout the year, and a bunch of companies and organizations come to campus or virtually come to campus, and they're really excited about Northwestern students. Specifically, they're looking to hire us, and it really helps you get those connections and find out about what different opportunities there are. And then lastly, one of the great parts Valerie talked about, us being located right near Chicago in the beginning of this presentation. One of the best parts of being so close to Chicago is that you're so close to so many different career opportunities and internships. A lot of students will choose to work in Chicago over the summer. Even during the school year, you can commute into Chicago because it's so close to campus. So you have all the resources that a huge city has to offer, like right at your fingertips.
Thanks, Sophia. That was really great insight. I appreciate it. What I hope that you're getting from the two of us today is that there is not just one way to do Northwestern. We are not a community of just engineers or just musicians or just journalists. We are a community of students who are pursuing countless different academic paths, and that translates into countless different career goals and personal goals for life after graduation. And so it's true that when you're choosing a college home, you're not just choosing a four-year experience, you're choosing a lifelong association with a university and a community. I don't say that to add any more stress than you already feel about the college search process, but rather to affirm that what you get to do here at Northwestern for 4 years is really just the beginning of your journey as a Wildcat. And so you're going to see on the screen here a whole list of organizations where Northwestern alumni work. These are organizations that, you know, our current students will continue to be connected with because we have alumni presence, and our alumni are a great source of insight and support for current students through mentoring programs, through internship opportunities, and the like. So as you start to think ahead, as cliche as it might sound, your Northwestern direction is really yours. It can take you anywhere you want to go. And I like to explain to people that the sum of what we've described so far in this info session is an experience where you can come into Northwestern having no idea what you want to do, or a very clear idea what you want to do. That's fine as well. You're going to have the space and the support to explore these goals and interests. And then throughout your time on campus, you're going to refine those, working with advisors, working with faculty, seeking opportunities outside of the classroom to enhance your skills, so that by the time you get to graduation, you are not just finding a job, which of course is great, but it's not the whole story. You're finding a meaningful career that's a really good match with your interests and with the skills that you've developed throughout your time as a student here. So if you ever visit us in person, if someday we're in a position where we can welcome you back to campus, we sure hope that's soon. As the world starts to reopen, you'll see that we really celebrate our astounding and talented alumni who are leaders in all sorts of industries and fields. And you can see a few faces on the screen here that represent that today. But what I really like to share with students is that you should look at this screen as inspiration, but you should also know that as a Northwestern graduate, you don't need to wait 20 years and have a late night talk show for you to feel like you really got the return on your investment in your time here. That's going to start immediately, because the guidance and the support that you receive while you're a student here means that you're going to land somewhere that's a great match for you after graduation. So we've talked a lot about academics and career preparation, and that's all great. But there's a whole lot more to the experience here than just that, just the work that you're doing. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn things back over to Sophia to talk a little bit about culture and community, and then we'll wrap up here in a few minutes before we take your questions, which you can pose in the chat, with a conversation about admission and financial aid. So Sophia, take it away.
Yeah, so like Valerie said, our community is such a central part of what it means to be a Northwestern student. It really makes being on campus what it is. And one of the biggest ways that we build community is through our residences. So Northwestern students will live on campus for 2 years, which is really exciting because we have a lot of great housing opportunities. There's 4 different areas. A residential area is just kind of a little community area that might share spaces such as a dining hall, a gym, study spaces. And within those residential areas, there's different types of housing models. So we have both our residence halls and then our residential colleges. The residential colleges will have a live-in faculty member and a little bit extra programming, but both residence halls and residential colleges are going to be really places of really, really strong community. So they'll have a lot of programming, things like movie nights, things like free food. You're going to meet a lot of great people through your residence hall. I'm actually living with a bunch of people who I lived with freshman year. As a senior, you really are going to make those communities through where you live. Then a lot of our residential colleges are also going to be theme-based. So that might be something like an engineering residential college or our theater and communication residential college. That can be something you're majoring in, or maybe it's just something you're interested in on the side. The residential colleges really give you a chance to live with people who are excited about the same things that you are. So if that sounds interesting to you, residential college might be the place to go. Residence hall is also a great option for everyone. We also have dining halls that are going to be right near your residential halls. So those are really wonderful options to meet people as well. I personally went to the dining hall like 10 times a day just because I wanted to hang out with people, but it also has great food, a lot of different types of options, and they're located all throughout campus. So wherever you are, wherever you're in class, living, hanging out, there's going to be a place where you can get food right nearby. Yeah. Another way that we really build that feeling of community on campus is through our traditions. So included on the slide here are a couple of our favorites, but there are plenty more Northwestern traditions that if you end up here, you'll definitely learn about. But I'll talk through a couple of these and what they are. So the first one on there is March Through the Arch. When you first get here, you will march through our Northwestern Arch. It's basically this big metal arch on the end of campus. You'll march through with your entire entering class while professors, friends, parents, family, everyone is like cheering you on. It's a really nice way to be welcome to Northwestern. It feels like you're really joining the community. And then later when you graduate, you will march back out through the arch, kind of signifying you're leaving Northwestern. Again, everyone cheering you on. I think it's a really cute tradition. We also have Wildcat Welcome. That's going to be our welcome week, your first week here. A great chance to meet a bunch of people, to kind of get adjusted to college life. It's also going to be when you choose your classes and meet with your advisor. So there's really a lot of resources here that are going to help you adjust both socially and also academically. Quickly go through these. There's the rock, which we paint with student groups or whatever sort of thing you are feeling. There's actually a live webcam that you can check out to see what the rock currently looks like. So that's kind of fun. If you search the rock on YouTube, Northwestern, you will probably be able to find it. Dance Marathon is really long, 30-hour dancing to raise money for a good cause out on the lake. We also have exam relief, or the primal scream. Basically before finals week, everyone lets out all their feelings about finals happening, and the campus just screams all at the same time. Kind of a funny tradition. And then last but not least, my favorite is Dillo Day. I like to think of it as like our, it's just a huge music festival on campus once it gets warm out. Super fun. The entire campus goes for free and celebrates the warm weather, and classes is finishing up. Yeah, and then we talked a little bit about community. Another really central part of the Northwestern community is collaboration. And that comes in a couple of different ways. So in terms of collaboration in the academic sense, students here really are focused on helping everyone succeed. There's no sort of competition between students. Instead, students are really passionate about studying with people, about helping their friends do well in their classes. And that, I think, really leads to a deeper learning because you are inspired by your peers rather than competing against them. But beyond the collaboration in the classroom, there's also a ton of collaboration outside of the classroom, obviously happening through research and innovation. But another way that it happens is through our student groups on campus, which are a huge part of Northwestern student life. So we have tons of student groups. We have over 500 in all sorts of things. So that is anything from cultural to political to art space to sports to philanthropy, community involvement, anything you can think of. We probably have a student group for it at Northwestern. But if for some reason you have something you're really dying to make and it's not here, it's super easy to make your own. So all you have to do is grab a group of friends, find a faculty advisor who kind of just signs a piece of paper, and you have a new student group, which is really exciting. So that means that students here are really excited about what we do in the classroom, but we're also really passionate about what we do outside of the classroom, which really makes campus feel really vibrant and collaborative. And then one thing that's not necessarily a student group, but is a really important part of our culture is our sports here on campus. So we are part of the Big Ten, which means there's a lot of school spirit at Northwestern for all sorts of sports. So we can actually get into any home sports game for free with our student ID. So people are really excited about going to support the Cats. It's just a really fun time to go watch really good athletes at our Big Ten sporting events, but have that alongside this really academic and really involved culture. It's a pretty unique thing.
Yeah, you're really making me excited about being able to go to sporting events here very soon. I would also like to comment that if you search The Rock on YouTube, you're probably not going to find Northwestern's Rock as your #1 search result.
Search Northwestern Rock, don't just search.
But that did make me laugh. So thank you for that. All right, we are going to switch gears here and talk a little bit about admissions, and then I promise we will get to your questions. We'll do our very best to answer as many as we can. We have a big group tonight, but I promise that I will leave you with the contact info and the next steps for learning more if we don't get to your question today. So I'm going to give an overview and talk a little bit about how we think about admissions and what our review process looks like. So the first thing that you need to know is this big box at the top of the screen here that says the first rule of our evaluation process is to consider context. And that means that we review applications holistically. I know that's kind of a loaded word in the world of college admissions. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but I can tell you what it means for us here at Northwestern. The first is that we care deeply about understanding the whole breadth of a student's story. So your application is not just your academic profile, your grades, your test scores if you submit them. Your application is the sum of your academic profile, the support you get from teachers and counselors, the activities and the ways that you're invested in your community, the things you care enough to write an essay about. All of that comes together to give us an understanding of your story. Over the course of 4 years, who are you and what do you love to do and what do you hope to accomplish in college? So we're not making admission decisions based on one fact or figure or class. And so that's the first thing you need to know about holistic admission. The second piece of holistic admission is that the context of where you live and study and work matters to us. Not every high school is the same. Not every high school or community offers the same opportunities to students. And so we are always evaluating applications in the context of that space. What classes are available to you at your high school? And from there, what have you taken? And how can we understand your academic profile? What does the community around you look like? And from there, can we understand how you've been invested in your high school community or in the space around you in your town or city? So those two things, the understanding your full story and understanding the context of it, come together and help us do a holistic application review. You may be wondering how in the time in pandemic times as COVID impacts things so deeply still, even a year later, how that impacts our admission process and how it changed the way we review applications. And the answer is that it really didn't change the foundational way that we review files. So Northwestern did adopt a test optional admission policy for students who are entering this fall. That will also be in place for students who are applying in the coming year. And from there, we will evaluate a long-term policy for test scores. But that's one way we adjusted to give students a little bit more flexibility in the process. And in terms of understanding things like pass-fail grades, or canceled summer programs, or the fact that you haven't set foot in a school for some of you in 9 months or a year. That's all something we're very used to doing because we have this process by which we first and foremost look at your context and understand the outside forces that are impacting your academic work. So that's the way that COVID, infiltrated what we do and the way that we thought about it as we reviewed applications, but we have always kept students at the center of our review process and we will always continue to do that. So if you are a junior, I'm guessing the majority of you on this call are probably high school juniors, you can rest assured that we will continue to do that in the coming year as we move forward. So the timeline that you're going to want to be thinking about is on the screen here. We have 2 application rounds, a binding early decision round in the fall with a November 1 deadline. Early decision is a term you'll hear at a lot of schools. It's not Northwestern specific. That's an opportunity for you to apply and say, I've done my research. I know that I want to be here in the fall, and I'm committing to withdrawing from any other school if I'm admitted to Northwestern. So you're guaranteeing the admission committee that you'll enroll in the fall if you are admitted and the financial aid process makes that enrollment possible for you. For students who aren't ready to commit in the fall, there are many valid reasons why you might not be. Our January 3 deadline is for you. That's our regular decision round of admission. It is non-binding. You'll apply by January 3. You will hear back from us in mid to late March, and you will have until early May to make that final decision about where you'll enroll in the fall. And then the rest of what you see here on the screen are those core components of an application that I've already mentioned. You'll submit the app itself, right? Either the common application or the coalition application, one of the two, which is going to ask you all the basic questions you might expect to give us a sense of your history. And then the 4 light purple boxes that you see are the additional materials that Northwestern requires. So application essays, one will be prompted by the application itself. That's the college essay where you're going to get a chance to write a little bit of a lengthier piece on many different topics. There are many different prompts and topics that you can choose from. And then we have one additional short answer question that asks you to talk a little bit more about your interest in Northwestern specifically. And then from there, letters of support from your school, one from a teacher and one from a counselor. Either the SAT or the ACT in most cases. Again, we have a temporary test optional policy right now. And then of course your high school transcript, which is going to give us a full understanding of the academic work that you've done over the course of 4 years. I want to talk a little bit about financial aid, but I know we'll have some more questions about the admission process, so we can certainly dive into those. But in the interest of time, I can't let financial aid go for too long because it's such an important component of this process for so many families. And Northwestern is committed to making sure that this is an accessible and affordable option. We have an entirely need-based financial aid program, which means that all of our aid dollars are awarded to students on the basis of families' financial status and family need. So you'll apply for financial aid during your senior year of high school. You'll do that by submitting 2 forms to us. One is called the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. That's a form you'll send to many, many colleges and universities if you're applying for federal aid at those places. And then we also ask students to submit something called the CSS profile, which helps us determine your eligibility for institutional aid or money that comes directly from Northwestern to your family. We ask for 2 forms and we do 2 very important things, 2 important commitments with our financial aid program. One is that we commit to meeting 100% of your demonstrated need. So after you apply for financial aid, a number called your expected family contribution is determined. That's the amount that we expect your family to contribute to college each year. Northwestern covers the difference between that number and the total cost of attendance. That's the 100% piece. And when we fill that gap, the second commitment that we make is that we have a loan-free financial aid policy. So when we fill that gap between your family contribution and the cost of attendance, we don't use undergraduate student loans to do so. There are some really wonderful tools available on our website that will help you get a better sense of an estimated financial aid package. And so let me point you in the direction of some additional resources before we circle back and ask some of these great questions that I know that you're asking in the chat. We have given you what I like to think of as a 30,000-foot overview of Northwestern today. We've hit the basics about a lot of different things, but if you want to dig into any part of what we've talked about, financial aid, for example, or undergraduate research, or the School of Music, we have resources available online for you to do that and for you to spend an hour diving into just that topic. So our YouTube channel, Northwestern Admissions, is an outstanding place to start. It is packed with info sessions, tours, student panels, all sorts of content that will help you learn a little bit more. And then you can see our contact information available here for all sorts of different social media channels as well. But the YouTube page is where I would suggest that you start. And then I'm sure my colleague Mauricio, shout out to Mauricio for running the show in the background today. I'm sure he can share our email address with you in the chat as well. If you cannot find what you're looking for on our website, our team is always happy to help. So with that, I'm going to stop screen sharing here. Sophia and I are going to come back on screen together, and we're going to start tackling some of these great questions that you're asking. So while we're still in an admission mindset, one that I want to address first is a really good question asking, how early do you suggest that most aspiring applicants start planning for the application process, including the specialized schools that require auditions? So let's talk about our school admission policy first. I gave you the overview, the materials that you'll need to submit in order to be considered for admission here. When you submit those materials, you are selecting an undergraduate school and in some cases a major that you're interested in pursuing when you get to campus. Of our 6 schools, you can apply as an undecided student to 3 of them: the College of Arts and Sciences, the School of Education, and the School of Engineering. There is no disadvantage to doing so. Most of our students come in as undecided majors, so it's very, very common. And there's really no difference in the admission rates or process for any of the other undergraduate schools either. So we recommend applying to the school that interests you the most, and know that our academic advising process is very flexible. And when you get on campus, it is possible to make a change to another school or program if you find one that's a better fit for you. So know that to start, that's how you're thinking about schools and programs as you move forward in our process. And then this question notes an audition. So our music school requires an audition for entering music students. And those deadlines are separate from our typical undergraduate admission process. So if you are interested in the School of Music, we have a dedicated music admission team who can help you from start to finish in that process, And the Bean School of Music is a great website to go to and just get a visual of what their process looks like. But in general, I would advise students in the spring of their junior year to start logging into more of these online info sessions, to visit campuses if you can safely do so, and to get a sense of, okay, among all the different college and university options available to me, what types of schools am I drawn to and why? So you're getting a sense of the types of places that are going to be the right fit for you. And that way, by the time you hit the summer, you can really start to narrow your list down and keep yourself organized when it comes to application requirements and the materials that you'll actually need to submit to us. So I think if you are active in this process in the summer before your senior year, you'll be in a really good shape to submit applications and move forward once you hit that year. With that, let's switch gears. Most of our questions that are coming in, Sophia, are about academics. So I want to dive into that a little bit. And we're getting several that are asking about general education requirements and fitting in a major that might have, stricter requirements. How does that work in the quarter system? So Sophia, can you talk a little bit about distribution requirements and how that takes the place of a general education program for us?
Sure. So one really great thing about our academic requirements are there is no single class that every Northwestern student is going to be forced to take, like not a single one. There are, however, general requirements, and I would think of them as sort of these buckets, like general themes maybe. So that might be formal studies, that tends to be math related, that might be natural science, that could be humanities. The general requirements differ a little bit based on which undergraduate school you're in, but same sort of structure, that they're going to be these general categories that you choose from, or you take from each, but you choose from lists of hundreds of different classes that can fill that. So there's a ton of flexibility in how you want to take it. As an example, I have a friend who really doesn't like math, really didn't want to take another math class, so she took a linguistics class, and that is totally doable. And similarly, I don't really love literature, so I took a Spanish class, and you can really make those requirements what you want of them. And speaking to if you're trying to fill in major requirements as well, there can be some overlap between them, and you can make it work with the other classes that you're taking. So maybe your major requires a lot of really sciencey classes for you, so you can take some literature classes or some history classes alongside it to balance out that quarter. It does allow for a lot of flexibility, which is really great. They're not going to force you to take certain classes at certain times throughout your experience.
Yeah, I think a core curriculum, you might find that to be a great fit for you at other schools, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I think at Northwestern, it would limit us so significantly in terms of the flexibility that we allow for our students. So yeah, great explanation. And I think the only other thing I would add is that our majors are designed around the quarter system. So everything that we do here fits into this calendar, and your major over the course of 4 years is really going to amount to about 1/3 of the classes that you take. Even majors that might have some additional requirements are not going to be 75% of the classes that you take over 4 years at Northwestern. So no matter what that primary area of interest is, you're going to have the flexibility to explore. And that's why the process for switching majors and even switching undergraduate schools is pretty straightforward. In most cases, it's a matter of meeting with your academic advisor, ensuring that this move wouldn't disrupt your graduation plan significantly, and filling out some forms. There are some programs that are more selective for current student transfers. Theater is one of them. There is not always a ton of space in the theater program for current students, but it's still not unheard of that you might make that move. Switches like going from the College of Arts and Sciences to engineering to education and social policy, that's all happening very, very regularly on campus. And so not at all unusual or all that difficult to obtain. Let's see here. Ooh, this is a good one for you, Sophia, as well, as we're thinking about classes. Is there ever competition to get into the classes that you want?
Yeah, that's a really important question. So I am in my 4th year here, and I personally have not ever really wanted to get into a class and not been able to take it. I think sometimes if you happen to not get into it, you take it the next quarter, which really isn't a big deal. But one of the great parts is that we have a really strong advising program. And so let's say there's a class you really need for your major, and to be able to graduate on time, you have to take it that specific quarter, and it happened to close. You can email your advisor and they will get you into that class. They will do everything they can to make it happen. So there's a lot of support to make sure that you're not getting into a class and it's somehow impacting your graduation or your major. So no need to stress about that. But obviously that's not the only reason you want to get into classes. Sometimes there's just a really exciting class that you want to take. There are very, very few classes on campus that will fill up and kick students out. Our registration requirements or our registration times shift every quarter. So if you had a later one quarter, you have an earlier one the next quarter, which really means that by the time you graduate, you've experienced all things. You've experienced being the first one to register before, and so you've had that opportunity to get those classes. But Northwestern is only 8,000 undergraduates, and there are way more classes than we could fill. So I don't think it's been something in my experience that has been an issue at all. And I don't really know anyone else who has really struggled to get into any classes that they're excited about taking.
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's one of those things you might not think to ask until you get on a campus. And then if there are challenges, that can be frustrating. So I love the forward thinking folks that we have in the chat today. Let's switch gears. We're getting some good questions about all the extracurricular and experiential learning opportunities. So one here is, how interconnected is Northwestern with the Feinberg School of Medicine? Is it easy to secure volunteering or shadowing through the undergrad school? So Sophia, I'll certainly let you jump in if you have insight here as well, but I can say that it's very connected. I mean, we're all one university. And so the School of Medicine is on our downtown campus. So while our undergraduate and most of our graduate programs are located in Evanston, the School of Medicine is in downtown Chicago, again, about 10 or 11 miles south of here. But students still interact regularly with Feinberg. They are able to obtain research positions in Feinberg labs. They are able to work on, in volunteer and shadow roles. And we have an entire office, it's called Health Professions Advising, that exists to help students who are interested in pre-med or other pre-health fields secure those opportunities. And you have access to more than just Northwestern. The North Shore Medical Network is a hub here in the North Shore of Chicago, and our students are regularly finding opportunities to do some of these things there as well. But I certainly recommend exploring the HPA or Health Professions Advising website. And we have an info session and a student panel that relates to this available on our YouTube page as well. Sophia, did you have anything else to add there?
I was just going to say that we actually have an intercampus shuttle that runs
thank you.
right from the Evanston campus to our downtown campus, which is where Feinberg is. And any students can take it for whatever reason. It's totally free and it gets you into downtown Chicago in, I would say, about 35 minutes. So it's a great resource if you're doing research at Feinberg or if you just want to go hang out in downtown.
Yeah, great point. Can you, while you are off mute, talk a little bit about what your favorite part of student life is at Northwestern, if you can narrow it down?
Yes, definitely hard to narrow it down. Student life is great here on campus. I think Probably my favorite part is student organizations. So there are a bunch of them. My personal favorite is called Books and Breakfast. It's an Evanston-based organization. It's a tutoring program for elementary school kids, but it feels really nice to just be involved in both the Northwestern community because it's a Northwestern-based student group, but then also the Evanston community and feel connected to both. I think that's something that Northwestern really strives for, is to have this really tight-knit community on campus, but not be totally separate from the surrounding Evanston and Chicago communities. So I love that our student life and specifically our student organizations kind of bridge that gap between the two and make it feel like one big community.
Yeah, thanks. I know that's a hard question to get down into a brief answer, but great job. One other question we got asks, is the area around Northwestern safe? And so I want to address this, and I can say, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. I'm coming to you live from my living room in Evanston, less than a mile from campus. And so outside of my work life, the rest of my life is here in Evanston too. And I find it to be very safe. It's not an especially high crime area. Students are encouraged to take what we would think of as sort of basic or common sense safety measures when they are out and about to prevent things like theft, which if we had to sort of categorize things that happen around here, that's probably one area where, you don't want to leave your laptop unattended in a local coffee shop and go for a walk with friends, right? And you wouldn't. So from that perspective, yes, it's a very safe area, but it's also really important to me to note that while Northwestern does have an extensive police force, and they are an important part of keeping our campus and local community safe, we're also very aware that that's a big and important topic of discussion right now, to ensure that when we think about safety and when we think about police presence, that means our students of color also feel safe in this community, that we are ensuring that we have the resources in place for students to know that they can wander around Evanston and live their lives and be protected in that space, but also that we are not in any way causing harm to our community members by those structures that we have in place. So I note that because it's a very important and central conversation that's happening on campus right now. You can read more about that online. The Daily Northwestern is our student newspaper, and I think they do a great job of capturing the issues that are on the hearts and minds of our student. But when we think about that safety question, I have to think about it from all of those different perspectives, and there's a lot of layers to that as well. Sophia, you also live here. So as you live your life in Evanston, is there anything else you'd want to say about safety and shuttles and things like that?
Yeah, well, I would totally agree with everything you say. I feel really safe walking around at night. I live off campus and it feels really safe, but I just want to plug a really cool resource that we have. It's called Safe Ride, and it's basically like a free Uber/Lyft, but Northwestern specific, from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. And it'll take you anywhere on or off campus within a radius. So I use it when I'm feeling a little bit unsafe and don't feel like walking. I also sometimes use it when it's really cold outside, but it is a great resource for safety to get you somewhere in a car if for some reason you're not feeling super safe.
I think that's another one of the benefits of our location, in that you do have, again, this city feel and this city access, but at the end of the day, Evanston, I truly think feels like a home and a neighborhood to our students, and that's a really great thing. We have a couple admission questions that I'm going to tackle briefly, and then I have one more for you, Sophia, as we wrap up here in a couple of minutes. But one question is what students should do if their interests lie in two different schools, and they know that at the time of applying, excuse me. You can apply to a dual degree program at Northwestern. So that's a great opportunity for students who want more than a double major. The majority of our students are finding that they are able to combine their academic interests in two majors. They have, again, the time and the flexibility to do that over the course of 4 years. But there are good reasons why students want to pursue two distinct bachelor's degrees in two separate schools during their time at Northwestern. An example of this might be a student who wants a degree in music and a degree in engineering, and they want to walk away with both in hand at the end of the day, as opposed to maybe a degree in music and a major somewhere else. For those students, the dual degree program is a really great option. So that allows you to pursue 2 distinct bachelor's degrees over the course of 5 years. Our website outlines that if you're a visual person like me and you want to sort of read the difference between dual degrees and double majors. The admission website has a section on academic options and it'll give you a little bit more information. But in the admission process, that's really as simple as indicating on the application via a drop-down menu that instead of 1 school, you want to be considered for 2 schools. And it doesn't really significantly change our review process. We're thinking about your interest and your fit with the university as it relates to 2 different majors and 2 different programs instead of just 1. And then we got another really good question about just the many changes this year has thrown at us. And the question is that with online learning, you maybe haven't had the chance to interact with your teachers as much as you would have liked to. And I know that especially well, for all of you on the call, this has now impacted 2 school years. That's okay if that you feel like that is impacting your letters of recommendation. We are very much aware that if you're not in a classroom with a teacher, it's just a different experience, no matter how outstanding that teacher and that class may be. So my advice is similar as it is to any other year, which is that choose the teachers who you feel like you have a meaningful connection with, who can speak to your engagement in class or your growth as a person, projects you've worked on, things like that. If you feel compelled to submit a second teacher letter of recommendation to add some additional insight, absolutely feel free to do so. We'll gladly read an additional letter, but know that we're going to keep that context in mind. It is more the norm than it is unusual to have had that experience this year. And so that will be top of mind for us when we get to reading applications again this fall. And then I think as we wrap up here, I'll end with one more question. Sophia, you and I can both maybe share some insight about this, but what would you say makes Northwestern students different from students at other universities? Or is there something about the Northwestern experience that you feel like is unique and that you shouldn't miss as you're doing your research?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things, but I'll keep it brief. I think what I really love about Northwestern students is that we're all super passionate, but about really different things. And I think that's why this question is so hard to answer, because there isn't like your one typical Northwestern student. I really would just say that a Northwestern student is excited about everything they're doing, whether that is what they're studying, what they're involved in outside of the classroom, their social life, their friends, their community here. People are just really involved and interested and interesting and have a lot of great things to share. And then I think on top of that, Northwestern really is a super collaborative place that has a really strong community. And it really does feel like a place that everyone is supported and belongs in some sort of way, which is a really important part of your college experience.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the most distinct and special thing about the Northwestern experience is that our students really do embody this campus community that brings together really disparate ideas and identities. And so it's a place where you have students who are really driven and really high achieving and have these incredible goals for themselves. They are also really nice and collaborative and down to earth and friendly. And those 2 things exist in one community. They are students that are involved in all sorts of great pre-professional opportunities. You know, they have these big goals in life. They also have a lot of fun. You know, they're packing the stadiums at football games and they're packing the theater productions and they are heavily engaged in student life. And so those things come together to make this an experience where, again, you can eat, sleep, and breathe in a lab for 4 years if you want to, but most students don't. They want to dive deeply into that academic interest and they want to prepare themselves for a great life after graduation, but they also really want to enjoy the experience and to make meaningful connections with their classmates. And I think, so to sum that up, what is unique here is that we have students who really strike the balance between all of that. And I think that for most of them, it becomes a really balanced experience as they navigate campus for 4 years. So with that, we are going to leave you here. I know we have not made it to every question, but again, this is just the starting point. So our team of staff and of students are here for you to provide more insight or answer questions if you have them. Mauricio, thank you again for your help in the background. Sophia, thank you for being here for your current student insight. It is so valuable. And to those of you out there, take care, be well, be safe and healthy. Our best to you as we continue to navigate a really unpredictable and challenging year. And I hope that we can continue to chat with you more as you move forward with your college searches. Take care, everyone, and have a great rest of the